I grew up in the 1960s when John Kennedy was running for president. And one of the big issues of the day with Kennedy was his religion, his Catholicism. People were coming out and attacking him, saying that if he became a Catholic, he would let the Pope run America. It's kind of absurd things. I can remember in my neighborhood, there was a minister, a Protestant minister living in our neighborhood. He actually stood out in his front yard and preached against John Kennedy. And I was just an early teen in high school, and I was trying, what's going on here? So Kennedy gave a famous speech later on to a ministerial association, which he quelled their fears, saying, of course, the Pope's not going to run America. I understand, this was a Harvard graduate. He was a very good senator, and he turned out to be a very good president. Now Mitt Romney's doing the same thing with his Mormonism. He's being attacked by a lot of Christians and others, saying that if he becomes president of the United States, somehow the Church of Latter-day Saints will run the country. All of which seems absurd on its face, and I think it's absurd on its face. What's happening now in politics is that people are, especially certain religious blocs, primarily Christians, they're voting their religious faith, but they're also imposing a religious test. It's almost, if you're not a Christian, you can't be a good politician. And as we've seen, some of our greatest presidents in history weren't Christians. From Franklin Delano Roosevelt, we don't know if he was overtly Christian, or even President Abraham Lincoln, who in my opinion was the last great president, was not overtly Christian. Being a good Christian does not equate to being a great president. We see that with our present president, George W. Bush, who is not going to go down in history as being a great president. Another problem I see is that people who are religious have to realize that politicians are politicians. Everything they do is political. And that's been true with every president. To think that you're going to have a political savior in office that's going to do everything you want him to do is always going to fail. Christians thought that George Bush was going to do that, and that didn't come true. Religion does have an important role to play in politics, and that's to be a moral authority. That's to speak truth to power. When government's doing things wrong, and government always does a lot of things wrong, I mean a lot of things. Jewish people, Christian people, whoever, need to speak up and say, you're violating the rule of law. Not just on religious things, but anything that goes against our Constitution, our values. What we really need as a president is someone in office who will run the country well, who will be a diplomat to the world. America is one of the most hated nations in the world now. We need a diplomat. And someone who will uphold our Constitution and uphold the principles that permit us all to remain free. To vote religion in blocks and to believe that because a person is a certain faith, it's going to save us as a country, or that person is going to somehow have the Pope or the Mormon Church run the government is patently absurd and I believe un-American.